Okay, so we'll be playing a game called Dear Esther Landmark Edition. I don't remember what this game is, but I downloaded it for some reason. But here we go, I guess. Director's commentary. I'll leave it out for now.
Dear Esther, I sometimes feel as if I've given birth to this island. Somewhere between the longitude and latitude, a split opened up, and it beached remotely here. No matter how hard I correlate, it remains a singularity, an alpha point in my life that refuses all hypothesis. I return each time leaving fresh markers that I hope, in the full glare of my hopelessness, will have blossomed into fresh insight in the interim.
It's disgusting in here. I'm supposed to like, is this like a story? It's kind of eerie. What the heck is this? That is in fact a chemical, whatchamacallit? How a chemical is formed. I forgot what they call it. Oh my gosh. Like the pattern. I forgot. I know what it is, but I don't actually know which chemical. 6 hydrogens, 2 carbons, 1 oxygen. Interesting. Anyways. I cannot run, or I don't know how. Oh, there's another one. Oh, it can zoom in. Can I interact? Okay, well. Left or right? Let's go this way. Oh, it's kind of cool. You know? That's kind of eerie over there, though, that tower being all red and stuff. What is the goal here? I'm assuming it's just a... Hello? It's a story.
Those islands in the distance, I'm sure, are nothing more than relics of another time, sleeping giants, somnambulist gods laid down for a final dreaming. I wash the sand from my lips and grip my wrist ever more tightly. My shaking arms will not support my fading diaries.
Okay. Sort of deep. What's this? A boat? What is this? Is this a map of the island? What? Weird.
Dear Esther, I found myself to be as featureless as this ocean, as shallow and unoccupied as this bay, a listless wreck without identification. My rocks
Oh,
are
there's
these
a
bones
car here.
and a careful fence to keep the precipice at bay. Shot through me caves, my forehead a mountain.
Looks like a butthole.
This aerial will transmit into me so. All overexposed, the nervous system, where Donnelly's boots and yours and mine still trample.
Denelli.
Torch for you. I will leave it at the foot of my headstone. You will need it for the tunnels that carry me under.
Interesting. Should probably actually listen to what he's saying. It sounds like he's dead. Or dying. Or somebody's dead. And something about this island is significant.
A wonderful sight. the moon cresting the junction between the cliff path and the stone circle. It cast a shadow of the ridge across the beach, all the world as if you had signed your name in untidy handwriting.
Am I supposed to get over there?
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
Ooh, the infection. Sounds creepy.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds. There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter and verse to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with a superimposed significance, that they could actually walk the Bible and inhabit its contradictions?
Interesting thought. Interesting thought. Island is huge. Is it a cave?
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life. I would leave you presents outside your retreat in this intimate space between cliff and beach. I would leave you loaves and fishes, but the fish stocks have been depleted and I've run out of bread. I would row you back to your homeland in a bottomless boat, but I fear we would both be driven mad by the chatter of the sea creatures.
Where's it again? The chemical compound. Interesting. It's very sparkly in here. Glittery. I wonder if there's like an order to this. I doubt it. Like there's no right way to go through it or something.
He still maintains he wasn't drunk, but tired. I can't make the judgment or the distinction anymore. I was drunk when I landed here, and tired too. I walked up the cliff path in near darkness and camped in the bay where the trawler lies beached. It was only at dawn that I saw the bothy and decided to make my temporary lodgings there. I was expecting just the aerial and a transmitter stashed in a weatherproof box somewhere on the mount. It had an air of uneasy permanence to it. Like all the other buildings here, erosion seems to have evaded it completely.
Ooh, a book. Chemistry. Makes sense. Making me sleepy, I'm not gonna lie. Oh. Oh.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome break services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Why is the lighting being weird? What is that? Flashing in the distance is yellow. What is this, like barrels of stuff? Fuel? What is that? Do you see that? There was totally a ghost over there. Something floating. Like 99% sure.
All night the boy has kept me lucid. I sat when I was at the very edge of despair, when I thought I
Go.
would never unlock the
Oh.
secret of the island. I sat at the edge and I watched the idiot boy blink through the night. He's mute and he is retarded, and he has no thought in his metal head but to blink each wave and each minute aside until the morning comes and renders him blind as well as deaf mute. In many ways, we have much in common.
Oh. And neither did he eat nor drink. How did I not see that before?
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived? I had kidney stones and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk. Is this what Paul saw through his windscreen? Not Lot's wife looking over her shoulder, but a scar in the hillside, falling away to black forever.
Whoa.
I've begun to climb, away from the sea and towards the center. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore. The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
I don't understand the chemistry, what it has to do with this.
Three cormorants seen at dusk. They did not land. This house built of stone, built by a long-dead shepherd. Contents: my camp bed, a stove, a table, chairs, my clothes, my books. The caves that score out the belly of this island, leaving it famished. My limbs and belly famished. This skin, these organs, this failing eyesight. When the battery runs out in my torch, I will descend into the caves and follow only the phosphorescence home.
What is that? Right there. Bro, why is the lag so much worse? Look, they're moving. Stop. It totally moved over there, whatever it was over there.
Jakobsen's ribcage, they told Donnelly, was deformed, the result of some birth defect or perhaps a traumatic injury as a child. Brittle and overblown it was, and desperately light. Perhaps it was this that finally did for him, unable to contain the shattering of his heart. In half-light, his skeleton a discarded prop, a false and calcified seabird.
Wow.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. All around him, small flowers were reaching for the weak sun. The goats had adjusted happily to life without a shepherd and were grazing freely about the valley. Donnelly reports they hurled the body in fear and disgust down the shaft, but I cannot corroborate this story.
Skeleton.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Whoa. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Donnelly's addiction is my one true constant. Even though I wake in false dawns and find the landscape changing, flowing inconstantly through my tears, I know his reaching is always upon me.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. Literally a frame by frame. What is happening? This is wild. This music is wild. Gosh. Dude. It's crazy.
They'd stop the traffic back as far as the Sanford Junction and come up the hard shoulder like radio signals from another star. It took 21 minutes for them to arrive. I watched Paul time it to the second on his watch.
What am I supposed to do? I'll go this way. Whoa. This game is weird. Just wish I wasn't lagging. Oh my gosh.
In my final dream, I sat at peace with Jakobsen and watched the moon over the Sandford Junction. Goats grazed on the hard shoulder, a world gone to weed and redemption. He showed me his fever scars, and I mine, between each shoulder the nascency of flight.
Is that a boat?
This cannot be the shaft they threw the goats into. It cannot be the landfill where the parts of your life that would not burn ended up. It cannot be the chimney that delivered you to the skies. It cannot be the place where you rained back down again to fertilize the soil and make small flowers in the rocks.
Oh, this is lined. Away from what? Being a city. And it be a it shall be a something heap, fungus heap. This feels so Twilight Princess. That was weird. Whoa, what? This looks like inside that game. Do I just keep walking? Oh. What's going on in this game? It's a whole tent. Oh, look at the moon.
The moon over the Sanford Junction, headlights in your retinas. Donnelly drove a grey hatchback without a bottom. All the creatures of the tarmac rose to sing to him. All manner of symbols crudely scrawled across the cliff face of my unrest. My life reduced to an electrical diagram. All my gulls have taken flight. They will no longer roost on these outcrops. The lure of the moon over the Sanford Junction is too strong.
Look, top left. That's so a dude. That's so a dude. Hmm.
We shall begin to assemble our own version of the North Shore. We will scrawl in dead languages and electrical diagrams and hide them away for future theologians to muse and mumble over. We will send a letter to Esther Donnelly and demand her answer. We will mix the paint with ashes and tarmac and the glow from our infections.
Hmm.
Paint a moon over the Sanford Junction and blue lights falling like stars along the hard shoulder.
So they got sick from those mushrooms from the caves. So what is the chemical like? What is the compounds for? Like, is it saying like this is the infection? Is this string of like chemical compound? That's somebody. Probably Esther. Well, there's the light thing. Is the guy still up there? Can't tell.
Paul, by the roadside, by the exit for Damascus, all ticking and cooled, all feathers and remorse, all of these signals routed like traffic through the circuit diagrams of our guts, those badly ridden boats torn bottomless in the swells, washing us forever ashore.
Right from heaven shore. Around.
From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. Folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
On a sudden, a light from heaven shone around him and he fell to the ground. Where's the letters? There's one in the cave.
When Paul keeled over dead on the road to Damascus, they resuscitated him by hitting him in the chest with stones gathered by the roadside. He was lifeless for 21 minutes, certainly long enough for the oxygen levels in his brain to have decreased and caused hallucinations and delusions of transcendence. I'm running out of painkillers, and the moon has become almost unbearably bright.
Still standing there.
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
This is crazy. And as he was proceeding something journey. Oh, as he was proceeding on his journey. And has come near to damage? I don't know what this is. And B. And he was
If only
3
Normandy had
days
experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as
with
am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so
without
he became his syphilis,
sight.
retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
Interestingly biblical, this story.
Returning to my car afterwards, hands still shaking, and a head split open by the impact. Goodbye to tearful aunts and traumatized uncles. Goodbye to the phenomenal. Goodbye to the tangible. Goodbye Wolverhampton. Goodbye Sanford. Goodbye Cromer. Goodbye Damascus. This cliff path is slippery in the dew. It is hard to climb with such an infection. I must carve out the bad flesh and sling it from the aerial. I must become infused with the very air.
And it came to pass that as I made my journey and was to what? Whoa. I can't really read it. Round me see for the
Blind with panic, deaf with the roar of the cage traffic, hard stopped on the road to Damascus. Paul sat at the roadside, hunched up like a gull, like a bloody gull, as useless and as doomed as a syphilitic cartographer, a dying goat herd, an infected kidney stone, blocking the traffic bound for Sanford and Exeter. He was not drunk, Esther. He was not drunk at all. All his roads and his tunnels and his paths led inevitably to this moment of impact. This is not a recorded natural condition. He should not be sat there with his chemicals and his circuit diagrams. He should not be sat there at all.
Talking about himself. Damascus.
We will leave twin vapor trails in the air, white lines etched into these rocks. Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jacobson? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon, that they will not forget you. We've always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jacobson flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
Whoa. Wild. So it ends? That's what I thought he said. Come back. Come back, Esther. Or something. Is that it? Is it over? Whoa. That was crazy. Sorry. That was insane. What? What in like what? Like what? So they got this guy was in a car accident and then it was like traumatizing to him and he was also on an island stranded and the island had these weird cave mushrooms that they got sick from. How are they even on the why would how did and what were the like ghost dudes that were like on the just hanging out far away and you could never get to them? What? And it was like biblical references to his life and then like crossing them. Well, it was mostly Paul's story, is what he was talking about on his way to Damascus. Interesting. At first, I was like, what is this, bro? Like, why? Like, this is so nothing. Like, it felt like little substance in the beginning, but I think I was just not sure what I was like. I needed the exposition to like, get moving. I just needed to, I need to be patient. Patience is a virtue. Wow, that was weird. That was good though. It was about an hour long. If I didn't like get lost, it's about an hour. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Definitely an interesting game. Because if you watched this, then you don't have to play it yourself because we went through the whole story. But I mean, it's cool. Recommend it if you. It's free. I'm pretty sure. Recommend it if you want to try it yourself. I mean, it's cool to see it like visually. Visuals are pretty interesting, especially the caves. It's wild. I wish I knew what compound that was though. And what was that? What was the correlation of like chemistry to this? Was it because of the mushrooms? Like he knew the chemical compound of the mushrooms, like or the fungus growing or whatever. It's quite interesting. Quite interesting. Oh yeah, that was Dear Esther Landmark Edition. It's kind of fun. That's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next episode of whatever we do next. Sound good? Yeah, because I'm ending it regardless. Bye.